안녕하세요. 제 이름은 나미입니다. Hi everyone, it's Nami, and today I have my husband Michael here to talk about how we told our parents that we were pregnant. He will just kind of tell the story, and I'll just pop in here and there whenever I have something to add. We were going to the same university, and we had been dating for about 3 years, a little over 3 years, maybe like 2 weeks past our 3-year anniversary. So Michael will just take it away.
It was probably about a month or month and a half after finding out and fully confirming that yes, she was pregnant. We had to form a strategy. We had to be responsible and take responsibility of our choices, and we had to not only share what would inevitably everybody would find out, but we would have to do it in a way that is upfront, personal, private, both be vulnerable on both sides, because it's heavy news that you'll be giving to your parents. Depending on your culture as well, in the Korean culture, it's frowned upon to have children outside of marriage. I would say, I'm not sure how it's changing now, but definitely it's not something that is normal. There's a lot of prejudice and judgment for the families and the parents of those whose children have had children outside of marriage. And so definitely sharing this kind of news would not be upbringing and lifting them up, but it would be very heavy on their hearts and on their head and on their face, as in shame within the community.
Culture, yeah.
And so the way we strategized it was about a month and a half. It was first Nami telling her mom in private, and I guess to sum it up quickly, Nami shared. Nami's mom just listened, and she was very quiet. She was sad because she knew the difficulty of the labor process, the rearing process, and the sudden change of life course, lifestyle that she would be going through, the hardship at such a young age.
I did graduate high school a year early, so I was 17 and I just entered university. Like, it was like my 3rd month in or so. She was already feeling like attachment issues with me because I just empty nested, suddenly hearing that I was planning to keep the baby and planning to get married. I guess she was just in a state of shock and just not talking.
And then Nami's mom eventually told her father, and what we did was, I vaguely remember that we had to organize, I guess, it wasn't a dinner, but we went over together to Nami's parents' house, and we had to talk it through. We sat on the table. Very few words left our mouths across the table, but we all sort of just took on the reality of it, and I had to show that I am taking responsibility, putting my feet down firm, and being there in supporting Nami through this process, because in the end, that's the best thing I can do. By this time, I had kind of my time of accepting the reality of it, and so I had to show confidence and also humility. And I don't remember the words that I don't recall the words, but basically the more important point is we had to organize a meeting with both her parents on her side, and we spoke and talked it through. What was very difficult for me was telling my parents that I got my girlfriend pregnant. My parents lived about an hour and a half north, so I told my mom first. It was about 2 months in, and we organized it, and my older sister was there too, because I spoke with my older sister. She was one of the first ones I told. That was so difficult personally for me, because for me, I felt like I felt like I failed a lot. I felt like I always brought my parents down. I felt like I was always a burden and a shame to my parents, partly because of like dropping out of high school. What else did I do?
Gaming all the time.
Video game addiction. To bring this up is kind of like putting a rotten cherry on top of something that's already putrid.
Oh my gosh.
So we met at someone else's house. So basically I said in Korean, but I'm going to say in English for you guys. I said, Mom, Nami got pregnant, pretty much. And then, for respect for my mom, and I'm not going to go into detail how it unfolded, but basically, of course, she felt, within the Korean culture, in the context of the Korean culture, she felt...
probably lots of things at once. Yeah.
Probably like a truck hit her. Like
super overwhelmed.
A truck is on, she was overwhelmed, and she had a mixture of sadness, of anger, of grief, and also sorrow that, she took it really on herself, and that, what, I'm sorry because I raised you this way. I remember she said that, and
I'm gonna cry.
Looking back at it, it was such a big thing then, but now looking back at it, I'm really thankful for everything that happened. It was a massively big thing because, it's the concept and idea like, wow, I'm going to be a father and my life is going to change, and I'm going to have to take responsibility, not only now in this relationship, but as the two of us being together reciprocally, we have to share in the responsibility of this child. And wow, does that change all the future hopes and plans that you might have had? Everything is kind of deconstructed, and you have to recreate everything. So there's that aspect, and then there's your social sphere, your social surroundings, your community, your social network. How are they gonna take it? Are people gonna judge you, accept you? You gotta face the reaction of your parents. Like, how will your parents take it? For me, growing up with such a strong family bond and unity, for me, it was a huge thing. That was probably the most difficult thing, telling my parents, telling my mom. That night, we left, and my mom also eventually told my father. I guess one thing I do regret was, even though I was able to take responsibility and meet with Nami and Nami's parents face to face and talk to her, and I was able to do it with my mother, I found that I wasn't able to do it with my father. I wasn't able to meet my father face to face and talk to him. And though I believe that it was important to speak directly with my father, I found that more than that I wasn't ready, more than that I was lazy, it was more I was scared, and he ended up calling me, and he was angry at me because I didn't tell him, or at least speak to him on the phone, and I learned from that. I guess what I learned is, if something is inevitable that it's gonna happen, just say it right away. You're never gonna be ready. Step on and do it, because as much as you prepare or try to hype yourself up or calm yourself down or consult people or console and things, like, you're never gonna be ready. Sometimes you just have to do it, and it's better if you take the step first than someone else take the step for you. And that's something I learned through this. I think this was really great because I remember that next day, it was a Sunday, after telling my mom. My mom and I were sitting in the back seat of a car, and for the very first time, she held my hand throughout the car ride for like maybe 5-10 minutes. I felt like that mother's touch. I felt like it was the first time. Yes, of course, she held my hand when I was a child, but then for me, I'll never forget when my mother reached out her hand and held my hand in the car the day after I told her. I really felt, though as much as she may be upset, she still accepts me as her son. And yeah, I'll never forget that. And my parents are really not the type to show any kind of physical affection or even say that I love you. Of course we've improved now, but like, not even a hug, not even a pat on the back. That's just how my parents were raised. That's how I was raised. It's probably how my grandparents were raised. It's just, I think it's a really Confucian kind of culture thing where
it's like that in
saying I love you
Asia.
is kind of, it's like an embarrassing, and
it's their statutory kind of roles.
Of course, there are huge cultural differences, but the Korean culture, I guess traditional or Korean culture few generations ago, there would be very little show of or words of affirmation or a show of romantic love through physical affection or words, things like I love you or like a hug or things like that. That would be very not only socially inappropriate but awkward even in an intimate setting. So
it's because they're used to not doing it in social settings, and so even in intimate settings it's awkward too.
Take time to realize, and is that a song lyrics? Take time to realize.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Take time to realize.
Take time to realize and accept the whole situation and be organized. Don't just tell your parents in the spur of the moment. I'd say have some organization. Have a private setting.
Have a game plan.
Yeah, have a private setting. The most important things are a private setting, some time, not rushed. At least you've accepted and kind of made a decision. Learning steps. Everything's going to be a learning, a new step. Everything you do in life, and you kind of just... It's kind of like jumping in the deep end and going for it. And that's how life is. Now that we've said that, we want to set some context. Nami and I were talking about wanting to get married about a year before... or 2 years before even her becoming pregnant.
Yeah, we started talking about marriage the month we started dating.
We both wanted to get married early. We're both comfortable, even if we are young, to marry early. But our parents were more on the side of wait a few years. Now that she was pregnant, us getting married, that was just...
It was just a given,
Yeah, we didn't question it. We just like, okay, we're going to get married next, the baby. And that was more of the thing where, okay, how are we going to adjust and provide? We have 9 months. So how did we feel about our decision? Well, for Nami, I think it was for sure, she strongly believes that aborting a child is aborting a life. And
just me?
No, I believe that too. So what we strongly believe is that aborting a child is aborting a life. So of course there are scenarios like medical situations such as an ectopic pregnancy when the lives of the mother could be in danger. But generally speaking, we strongly believe that aborting a child is aborting a life. To be honest with you guys, for me, the reality sinking in for about the first 2 weeks after finding out was so strong that I was struggling internally, though I had this firm belief that half of me actually wanted to abort and half of me wanted to follow through. And for a few weeks I was struggling. I was struggling.
My anger horn.
Looking back, it was a really beautiful and I think for me necessary time of breaking down all my walls in my mind and heart, my pride, my way of thinking, my plans. It was deconstructing everything about me and reconstructing it. Almost 4 years later, I always tell people that if you're in a dating relationship, the goal of dating relationships should not be for experience or to have fun or to sleep around or I always firmly say to those I care about that your dating relationship should always have its destination towards marriage, to commitment. I always tell people that when you're married, it's peaceful. If I were to sum up marriage in one word, it would be peace. I always tell everybody that 49% of the time having kids suck and 51% of the time it's great. So it's always better than it sucks.
It's bad, yeah.
And how does it suck? Well,
it's hard.
It's hard. You're sleeping in the first 3 weeks. You sleep like 3-4 hours a day. You have to play for another child. You have to feed for another human. You gotta dress for another human. You gotta work.
You gotta do everything for
you gotta
another
live your life not
person.
only for yourself, not only provide for each other and help each other, because there's already enough conflict in a relationship in a relationship in itself, but also
it brings
for
like another
a child.
entity of.
But what I think is, if you thought you were anything before having a child, you will realize that you weren't really anything. You will become even better even more sharpened, even more focused. Your goals and priorities will all suddenly just align. Even though you have half the time, you'll do half the more than even if you had all the time. 100% of the time.
And I think this applies for when you really take responsibility of the child. Like for people who have children but aren't even with the child, like for them this does not even apply, because it doesn't change their lifestyle, it doesn't change the way that they view things. Different kinds of suffering molds you and builds your character.
Of course. And as Christians, we believe that, well, God came in the form of Christ to suffer. And God, being sinless and perfect, suffered. How much more do we as sinners need suffering all the more to be Christ-like? Suffering really refines and shapes you. I'm really thankful for what's gone. I guess, for example, one example I like to share, by God's grace, through the suffering He's allowed us to endure through childbearing, is I went from high school dropout, more than 25 courses dropped, failed, video game addict, no friends, no work, total like loser, nothing, to by God's grace and diligence, graduating with distinction, working beside professors, creating university courses, creating examinations, tutoring and mentoring dozens of other students, being able to share and impart my experience and wisdom and knowledge and love that I've learned, not only through my suffering but through people who have stuck around and shared that love to me, especially God, who has loved me. And so basically it's having kids is better than not if you do. But that doesn't mean that if you don't have kids that your life is not as fulfilling or as effective. I'm just saying that if you do end up having children, you will come to the conclusion that it is better than not. That's all.
Yeah. And for me too, I was like such an angry person, and I was a loser too. We were both losers. I was like really violent, really angry, really self-righteous and crazy. And then like going through all the suffering of childbearing and child like labor, and you guys will know if you watched Galahad's birth story video that it was really hard, and that really all of the suffering just really forms you and shapes you as a person. And I feel like I changed a lot, and a lot of the people that I meet who knew me before also say that it does change you as a person. And
Good.
I guess if you have any questions for us or further questions, you can leave them down below. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye. Oh. Hi everyone, today we're here to talk about Galahad's birth story. I actually never talked about the story of my labor and delivery on this channel, or like in general, because to me it's really hazy, and that's why I have Michael here, because like I honestly